Good morning, French 2 students. Here is some information for Lesson 2C on pages 48 and 49 in your textbook. This is Section C called Quelques adjectifs irréguliers. So we're talking about some irregular adjectives. Many irregular adjectives follow predictable patterns. So although these are irregular, they do tend to follow a pattern. The first pattern we're going to look at is these adjectives that end in EUX. So again, we kind of see our chart here. Our masculine singular adjectives are going to end in the EUX. Okay, to make them singular and feminine, the EUX becomes EUSE. The masculine singular and plural, notice that they are the same. Okay, so there's no difference between the masculine singular and masculine plural forms for these adjectives. And then again, to make these feminine and singular, we add that EUSES. So, s'il vous plaît, répétez. Alan est sérieux. Alice est sérieuse. Ses amis sont sérieux. Ses amis sont sérieuses. So again, because Alain is one male, this is the masculine singular form of serious. Because Alice is one female, this is the feminine singular form of serious, which is sérieuse. Because ses amis here is masculine and plural, this is the masculine plural form of serious, which is sérieux. And then because ses amis here is feminine and plural, sérieuse is the feminine and plural form. So some new adjectives, okay, so these are new, okay. Some new adjectives that follow this pattern. Okay, so we have ambitieux, which means ambitious. Consciencieux, conscientious. Curieux, curious. Ennuyeux, boring. Généreux, generous. Sérieux, serious. Heureux, happy. Malheureux, unhappy. And paresseux, lazy. So in case you're not familiar with what it means to be ambitious, the definition of ambitious is having or showing a strong desire and determination to succeed. That's what it means to be ambitious. So that would be ambitieux and ambitieuse. In case you're not sure what conscientious means, conscientious for a person means wishing to do what is right, especially to do one's work or duty well and thoroughly. It also can mean relating to a person's conscience. So we have consciencieux and consciencieuse. Then we have curious, and again, if you're not sure what curious means, curious as an adjective means eager to know or learn something. It's also sometimes used for strange or unusual. So we have curieux and curieuse. We have boring, which would be ennuyeux and ennuyeuse. Next we have generous. Again, generous for a person means showing a readiness to give more of something as money or time than is strictly necessary or expected. It can mean showing kindness towards others. And when you're talking about generous of an object, it's larger or more plentiful than is usual or necessary. So we have généreux and généreuse. Next we have serious. Serious can mean for a subject, a state, or an activity demanding careful consideration or application. When you're using serious for a person, it means solemn or thoughtful in character or manner. When you're using serious for a thought or a discussion, it means careful or profound. And you can also use serious for music, literature, other forms of art. And then it's serious means requiring deep reflection and inviting a considered response. Serious can also mean acting or speaking sincerely and in earnest, rather than in a joking or a half-hearted manner. And again, sometimes it can also mean significant or worrying because of possible danger or risk, not slight or negligible. Okay, so again, this is serious, sérieux, and sérieuse. Then we have happy, heureux, and heureuse. And unhappy, malheureux, and malheureuse. And then lazy, pareux, and pareuse. So again, these are some adjectives that follow this pattern of this EUX becoming EUSE in the feminine. We also have some adjectives that are irregular but kind of follow a pattern, these adjectives that end in an AL. And again, in terms of the masculine singular becoming feminine, you'll see this sort of looks like what you would expect. We just add an E to it to make it feminine. And again, to make it feminine and plural, we just add that ES. What's different here, this is where this is irregular, okay, is how this AL becomes plural. To become plural, it changes from an AL to an AUX. This is also true, typically, of nouns that end in AL, like animal. To become plural, it would become animo, ending in an AUX. So this also happens not just for adjectives, but also for nouns in French that end in an AL. So if we look at our examples here, s'il vous plaît, répétez. Paul est original. Valérie est originale. Il a des amis originaux. Elle a des amis originales. So again, Paul, one masculine person, so we have the masculine singular adjective. Because remember, our adjectives always have to agree in gender and number with the noun that they describe. Valerie, feminine and singular, so we have our feminine singular adjective. Des amis here, masculine and plural, so we have the masculine plural form of original, which is original. And right here, des amis is feminine and plural, so we have that feminine plural form. Looking at what these sentences are saying then, they're saying Paul is original, Valerie is original, he has some original friends, she has some original friends. So again, these kind of new adjectives down here, your textbook gives you 3 of them that follow this pattern. We have génial, which means great or terrific, libéral, liberal, and original. So great or terrific, I think you know what that means. Next we have liberal, and again, in case you're not sure what the definition of liberal means, one way to define it is to say that it means to be open to new behavior or opinions and willing to discard traditional values. It can mean favorable to or respectful of individual rights and freedoms. In a political context, it means favoring maximum individual liberty in political and social reform. In education, if we talk about education in liberal, It's concerned mainly with broadening a person's general knowledge and experience rather than with technical or professional training. So, like when somebody says they have a liberal arts education, that's sort of what it's referring to. So, again, we have liberal. The last one of these adjectives to follow this pattern is original, original. Again, this is an adjective. In case you're not exactly sure what this adjective means, it can mean present or existing from the beginning, the first or earliest. It can mean created directly and personally by a particular artist, not a copy or imitation. And it can also mean not dependent on other people's ideas, inventive and unusual. So those are some different ways that you can use the word original. So again, this is original. So these again are some irregular adjectives. Although they're irregular, they follow a pattern. And really again here, the only difference with these is how they become masculine and plural. Otherwise, they look pretty normal, okay, for adjectives. But the plurals become the AUX ending. And again, that doesn't just happen with adjectives. It also happens with nouns that end in AL. Our last kind of group of irregular adjectives are some irregular adjectives where just the feminine forms are irregular. So again, for masculine, if the adjective ends in an IF, the ending in the feminine becomes IVE. These are normal, if you will, in terms of their plurals, because for any of these to become plural, masculine plural, we would just take these endings and add an S. And we take any of these endings that are already feminine, and again, we would just add an S to make them feminine and plural. Okay? So these IFs, they become IVE. Si vous plaît, répétez, Paul est actif. Alice est active. The EL adjective endings that become ELLE. So basically all we're doing here, right, is adding that extra LE to make them feminine. So we have Eric est ponctuel. Sa sœur est ponctuelle. The ON, again, pretty much all we're doing here to become feminine is adding an extra NE. Again, we have ce sandwich est bon. Cette glace est bonne. And then lastly, we have the adjectives that end in EN. And again, those become feminine by adding an NE. Marc est Canadien. Alice est Canadienne. So again, down here, we have adjectives. Not all of these are new, but most of them are new. Right? We see a couple review ones with mignon and sportif. But for the most part, the rest of them are new adjectives. So the first one we have here is active. And again, in case you're not exactly sure how to use that as an adjective, active means engaging or ready to engage in physically energetic pursuits. So it can kind of mean moving or tending to move about vigorously or frequently, characterized by busy or lively activity. And when you're talking about it with a person's mind or imagination, active means alert and lively. Active can also mean pursuing an occupation or activity at a particular place or in a particular way. So participating or engaged in a particular sphere or activity in a positive or spontaneous rather than a passive way. So she was an active member of the society. And then active can also, when it refers to a thing, mean working or operative. Okay, so like active for an electrical circuit means capable of modifying its state or characteristics automatically in response to input or feedback. You might talk about an active volcano, which means it's currently erupting or that has erupted within historical times. You might talk about an active disease in which the symptoms are manifest, not in remission or latent. And you can also use active relating to having a chemical or biological effect on something. Okay, so again, some ways for actif and active. Next, we have imaginative. And imaginative means having or showing creativity or inventiveness. So we have imaginatif and imaginative. Next, we have impulsive. Impulsive means acting or done without forethought. So impulsive and impulsive. Next, we have intuitive. Intuitive, again, if that's an adjective you're not real familiar with, means using or based on what one feels to be true, even without conscious reasoning. Instinctive. You could also use intuitive relating to computer software, in which case it means it's easy to use and understand. So we have intuitif and intuitive. Next, we have naive. Okay. And again, naive, when it's referring to a person or action, means it's showing a lack of experience, wisdom, or judgment. Typically, when it's referring to a person, it means natural and unaffected or innocent. And it can be used when talking about art, so of or denoting art produced in a straightforward style that deliberately rejects sophisticated artistic techniques and has a bold directness resembling a child's work, typically in bright colors with little or no perspective. So typically you're going to use naive talking about people, and again, it means showing a lack of experience, wisdom, or judgment, natural or unaffected, innocent. And then we have athletic, and then we have witty. Witty means showing or characterized by quick and inventive verbal humor. So these are those people who always have a quick something to say back to you. So that's spiritual and spiritual. We have intellectual and punctual. Intellectual. Intellectual means relating to the intellect, appealing to or requiring the use of the intellect, possessing a highly developed intellect. Okay. And lastly, for some adjectives that might be unfamiliar, we have punctual, punctual, which means happening or doing something at the agreed or proper time, on time. Okay, so that's what it means to be punctual. So again, we have these adjectives that follow these patterns. We have mignon, which means cute, and musicien, which means musical. Remember, you've also learned some other ones that go with the en, like Canadian, okay, and a couple other of your nationality adjectives. So, if we go through and practice saying these, s'il vous plaît, répétez ambitieux, consciencieux, curieux, ennuyeux, généreux, sérieux, heureux, malheureux, pareux, génial, libéral, original, actif, imaginatif, impulsif, intuitif, neuf, sportif, intellectuel, ponctuel, spirituel, mignon, musicien. So again, a fair amount of these are new adjectives for you to use. They're mostly adjectives that describe people's personalities. So your homework is on page 49, exercises 6 and 8. If you take a look at page 49, exercise number 6, it says substitution. Parler, écrire, remplacer les noms soulignés par les noms entre parenthèses. Faites les changements nécessaires. So the title of this is Substitutions. You're going to do it as a writing activity. And the directions are telling you to replace the underlined nouns by the nouns in parentheses. Make the necessary changes. So again, your example here, sentence that we kind of see, is mon oncle. And because mon oncle is masculine and singular, the adjective here is masculine and singular in the sentence. So now, when I'm going to change this to what they have in parentheses, mes cousines is feminine because it ends in an E, and it's plural. So I have to take ponctuel and make sure it's the feminine and plural form of the verb. Notice our verb also changed because it went from being singular verb to a plural verb. Okay, so pay attention to your verbs as well. So again, this sentence becomes mes cousines ne sont pas toujours ponctuelles. And again, this one is negative because the example sentence they gave us was negative. So notice that for all of these, right, in this one you're going to write 2 sentences. For number 2, you're going to have to write 3 sentences, 3 sentences, 3 sentences, 3 sentences, 3 sentences. So if we kind of just look at, say, number 6, right, we have ton frère est très mignon. So let's say that we want to do the tes copines one. So then your sentence is going to be tes copines, and copine is feminine and plural. So my verb has to become sont instead of a. Très stays très, but I'm going to change mignon and make it feminine. So that means I have to add an extra ne and plural. So the sentence you would write is tes copines sont très mignonnes. Okay, that's one of the sentences. You'd have a total of 3 sentences to write for that one. Exercise 8 is une question de personnalité. Ces filles sont vos amies. Décrivez la personnalité de chacun. Pour cela, utilisez un adjectif du vocabulaire. So the title of this one again is A Question of Personality. Again, you're going to do it as a writing activity. These girls are your friends. Describe the personality of each one. For each, use an adjective from the vocabulary that's on page 48. So again, we're talking about these vocabulary words here. Okay? So again, if we look at our example, right, our prompt is Zoe prépare toujours ses devoirs avant le dîner. So this is telling us that Zoe always prepares or does her homework before dinner. Well, if she does that, that makes her conscientious. So our sentence is Elle est consciencieuse. Every single time you're talking about just one person, okay? So your sentences are always going to start L, A, and then again, you're always going to use a feminine singular form of your adjective. So if we take a look maybe at number 6. Charlotte déteste étudier. Elle préfère regarder la télé ou dormir. Charlotte hates to study. She prefers to watch TV or sleep. Of our choices here, they're looking for this idea that this person is lazy, okay, which is pazarı, but we're going to make it the feminine form. So our sentence is going to be elle est pazareuse. So, au revoir, à demain.